This is how a 67-year-old man who's now retired from the military built an $883,500 TFSA. And that TFSA generates him $11,000 a month in tax-free income. So Marcus opened a TFSA way back in 2009 when it was first introduced. Initially, he had his money invested in a low-interest savings product on the advice of his local bank. So after a few years, he took matters into his own hands by investing into Canadian dividend stocks. So what he did was he purchased the 10 highest yielding stocks in the TSX 60 index. So here's where the real growth happens. So in January of 2017, he became really interested in Shopify stock. He read about the high number of transactions that the platform was making in its early days, which led to high revenue growth for the company. By the way, Marcus lives in Ottawa, where Shopify happens to be based. So this was kind of a case of investing within your circle of competence. And that's something that Warren Buffett talks about a lot. So anyways, in January 2017, he sold his dividend stocks to purchase Shopify stock with the majority of his proceeds. So he bought Shopify stock at $6 per share in January of 2017, and he sold the majority of his stock in February 2021 when Shopify was trading at $160. So in 2021, Marcus withdrew some of his Shopify proceeds to purchase an RV and a new car all in cash, as well as do some renovations to their house. So why did he take this huge risk to sell his high-yielding, relatively safe dividend stocks in favor of a much riskier investment, being a high-growth tech stock that was brand new back in 2017, trading at $6 a share? I'm not sure what the market cap was back then, but I'll put it up here somewhere. So why did he take this risk? So he took this risk because at the time he was employed full-time with the military, and he knew that he had a defined benefits pension plan that was coming his way regardless of what happens with the funds in his TFSA. So in this situation, there was definitely a lot of luck involved. So how did he know when to sell the stock? So he sold the Shopify shares in 2021, partially because his wife wanted to retire 2 years prior to receiving her pension. So they wanted to replace that income. So they calculated that they would need $45,000 a year to replace his wife's income. So that's why he sold his Shopify stock to purchase dividend-paying ETFs. So these ETFs would pay tax-free dividend income inside of the TFSA. So what Marcus did is invest in what are called covered call ETFs, which he learned about from watching YouTube videos. So covered call ETFs generate higher yields than other ETFs and dividend paying stocks because of the strategy that they use. So these funds buy shares in companies and sell call options on those underlying shares in order to generate additional income. This is more risky, but it generates a higher overall yield. So to mitigate this risk, Marcus diversified into many different covered call ETFs. Marcus focused more heavily on funds that provided broad exposure to the S&P 500 and NASDAQ indexes. So his portfolio, as a result of these covered call ETFs, generates a yield of 14% or $134,000 a year in tax-free income. And he still has $230,000 of contribution room left over because he decided to withdraw his proceeds on Shopify back in 2021. And the reason for that is when you profit inside of your TFSA and you withdraw that amount gets added back to your contribution room in the following year. And if it doesn't make sense, or if you don't believe me, I'll put a link to the reference for that in the description, so check that out below. If you find value in this type of content, make sure you subscribe because I'll be making more of these kind of videos. I'll see you in the next one.